I went undefeated using this powerful card in my Scareclaw deck. Wait, I actually needed that card. I only got one. Scareclaw is often a lost and forgotten archetype, but in this video, I'm gonna show you how I beat some of the best decks in the game, and if you stick around, I'll be able to tell you everything you need to know about Scareclaw. Let's jump on in. So for the super competitive players, you're probably wondering what exact decks did I beat with this strategy and how tough was the event? This particular event was a 40-man event, so 5 rounds with some really tough players that actually have had success at the highest level YCS events. I played against 1 Fire King strategy, 2 Rescue Ace, a Tearlament, and a Monadium deck. Every single one of those decks have had success over the course of the format, and the players were really good themselves. And ironically, every single one of those players that I played against topped at least at a regional, so the competition was really tough. This deck went completely undefeated, getting me first place, and I have to thank my teammates from Team Inspire, Johnny Zai, and Robert Aguirre for helping me even think about playing this deck. It was really crazy. Let's go ahead and break down why I play these particular cards. And one of the biggest problems that I realized about Scareclaw is that a lot of the monsters don't do enough. In modern Yu-Gi-Oh, you need your cards to be able to perform multiple functions, which is the biggest reason why I don't play any of the level 3 Scareclaws. Instead, I play 3 copies of Viscous Samsara. Monadium isn't the only deck that can take full advantage of this card. Not only is Samsara a full 1-card combo, but with just this 1 card, you can actually OTK your opponent. What is so powerful about Scareclaw against all of the top decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is that those particular strategies either destroy your cards or negate your cards. And this deck is incredibly good at being able to recur your resources or use those monsters on the field for a huge play. I would like to say that Viscous Samsara is an honorary Scareclaw card because it gets into your most important Scareclaw Link monster, but next is going to be Scareclaw Reichardt, which is going to be the only level 4 or lower Scareclaw monster that I play in the deck. Remember when I said that your cards need to be able to perform multiple functions? This card does exactly that. Not only is it a free special summon, it has 1500 attack and 2100 defense, which comes up a lot. It's also a warrior monster that can be fairly easy to search and allows you to be able to get recovery cards and draw cards. In modern Yu-Gi-Oh, these are the exact type of cards that you need in your deck, and if you're not playing these type of cards, you're behind the ball game when you're playing against the toughest competition. And then there's 1 copy of Reinforcement of the Army to be able to search Scareclaw Reichardt and any other warrior monster. From there is another honorary Scareclaw monster in Viscous Starfrost because it can turn itself into Scareclaw Lightheart, but more importantly, this card also allows you to be able to synchro summon into powerful level 10 monsters, as well as being able to bring Scareclaw Lightheart back to your side of the field to potentially link summon into monsters like SP Little Knight. We all know that Synchro 10 monsters are the rage right now, some of the best cards in the game, and SP Little Knight is $130 for a reason. This card essentially allows you to be able to get into both and is actually searchable by Primitive Planet Rakephobia alongside of your Scareclaw Reichardt. Now, I'm absolutely in love with this card as a field spell because, again, a lot of your opponent's cards either negate your card effect or destroy your card effect. If your opponent is using cards like Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring on your Primitive Planet Rakephobia, you still have the potential to be able to destroy cards on your opponent's side of the field, which is a lot of times what you were trying to do anyways. Also, keep in mind the attack and defense reduction for your opponent's monsters does come up as well, but this is a central piece of the deck because a lot of times your opponent can't get rid of this card, and if they do negate and destroy the activation, you can just search another one and activate it. Scareclaw Lightheart, one of the most powerful Link 1 monsters in the game, is not a once per turn. As long as you can place a Scareclaw monster to your side of the field in the main monster zone, then you can search another one. Next is another card to help solidify the extension of this deck. There's 3 copies of Scareclaw Arrival. This card is completely bonkers. Decks like Fire King and Rescue Ace are incredible at being able to destroy your monsters, but this card punishes them severely. Now, I do play another Scareclaw monster that just so happens to not be level 3, and that monster is 3 copies of Scareclaw Kashtira. This card is really important. It's because it's a bridge between 2 engines. Scareclaw Kashtira is highly accessible inside of the deck, can serve as that 1-card card combo, but also disrupts our opponent too. The versatility of this card is completely ridiculous, and we actually complement the Scareclaw Kashtira by playing in a Kashtira engine. Now, one thing I want to be 100% clear of is that there is 17 Scareclaw cards inside of this deck. This is genuinely a Scareclaw deck without playing the level 3 bad cards. But also when you recognize that Kashtira Fenrir is one of the strongest monsters in the entire game, and this particular deck not only has the ability to recur it, but makes it a part of the combo, it's almost a no-brainer to play. To help reinforce that, there's 3 copies of Kashtira Unicorn. This card often serves as bait. If you lead off with this card, your opponent thinks you're on Kashtira, and then they start to stop this card, which is not as important for this particular deck. And lastly is 1 copy of Kashtira Riceheart. This card is ridiculously good at being able to help you exceed summon into important cards to shut down your opponent. This particular deck naturally forces your opponent to waste precious resources on your Kashtira cards, so then you can follow up with your Scareclaw cards to go for game. And then to be able to consistently get into these Kashtira cards, as well as Scareclaw Kashtira, there are 3 copies of Pressure Planet Racehorse. And to be able to recur your Scareclaw monsters for follow-up, there's 3 copies of Kashtira Birth. This card is really good. Burst effect to be able to banish your opponent's cards in graveyard face down is actually insane against the best decks in the game. It depletes the resources and allow you to recur yours. Lastly is 1 copy of Kashtira Theosis. This is a lot of times in your end sequence when you need to be able to special summon a particular Kashtira monster to be able to go for a finishing blow for an Xyz play. But that's all for the Kashtira cards inside of this deck. This deck is built to go second and break boards, but it also can go first and has the versatility to stop your opponent. I kept that in mind when I decided to build this deck, and 1 card that I decided to play is Book of Eclipse. This card is pretty forgotten, but still incredibly powerful. What this deck does best is recovery. Oftentimes, if you can buy yourself another turn, you can turn the tides of the game. Book of Eclipse allows you to be able to stop your opponent for going for game, but also can prevent them from summoning important link monsters or synchro monsters. Next is 3 copies of Enemy Controller, using its effect to be able to take your opponent's monsters and dodge cards like Infinite Impermanence and Effect Veiler is good, but also changing the battle position of a monster on the field to use your Rake Phobia or to inflict extra damage is also great. And then lastly is 3 copies of Triple Tactics Talent to punish players that are using hand traps. As you can see in this particular deck, there is 0 hand traps, and it's mainly because I want every single one of my cards to perform multiple functions, and we know as hand traps, they don't necessarily do that. Now, the extra deck is pretty self-explanatory. Allow me to go through it really quickly. There's 1 copy of Underworld Goddess to be able to break boards. Donner allows you to be able to get rid of monsters and summon Kashtira cards. SP Little Knight is one of the best cards in the game. Barricade Blocker not only protects your cards like Kashtira Birth, but allows you to recur field spells, and 2 copies of Scareclaw Lightheart. Out of all of the Link monsters, I would say the only thing that's pretty mandatory is the Lightheart and the SP Little Knight. Sorry, budget players, but you can mix and mash whatever other Link monsters depending on your situation. For the synchros, there's 1 copy of Baron de Fleur and 1 copy of Chaos Angel. Now, Chaos Angel isn't necessarily mandatory, but it makes your combos so much more fluid. You could play Xing Ying if you guys cannot afford one of these. And the reason why Chaos Angel is so good is because of the star card of the deck, Chaos Archfiend. Chaos Archfiend has a lot of properties that are amazing against the Yu-Gi-Oh decks. Its first effect is that if you banish cards during this turn, this card becomes 4,500. And any monster that it battles is banished itself. This means a lot of times that if you somehow can't win the game, when you're battling decks like Fire King, Rescue Ace, or Tearlament, you banish their cards and prevent them from getting access to them again. But another great thing about Chaos Archfiend is that if it's destroyed, you can summon Chaos Angel to your side of the field and still destroy a card. And it's incredibly easy to summon Chaos Archfiend and get its effect. Normal summon Vicious Samsara allows you to be able to get to Vicious Astrolaud and Chaos Archfiend. These 2 monsters by themselves equate to 7,500 damage, meaning that if Vicious Astrolaud destroys at least 1 monster with at least 1,000 attack, you win the game. And then next is a Borreload Savage Dragon, Divine Arsenal Double-Egg Zeus. Number 76, Harmonizing Greediel. This card is crazy good. Using this with a Kashtira Riceheart means that your opponent can't destroy it with fire effects. There's then 1 Baguska and 1 Abyss Dweller. Out of all these cards, the only cards that I would say is mandatory are Abyss Dweller, Vicious Astrolaud, Chaos Archfiend, Baron de Fleur, and Zeus. What's really weird about this deck is that everything else can be mixed and mashed to whatever you so please. And I think that the versatility for this deck is incredibly cool, and that's what makes it so powerful. but allow me to show you how this deck works. So the interesting thing about this deck is that there's no such thing as a set combo for the strategy, but I'm going to be showing you some things that you could be doing going first or going second, and I'll also be sure to put some test hands on my Patreon as a special thank you for helping me pay my editor. I also wanted to mention, just in case you were wondering, these are actually Raven Wing sleeves. So if you guys wanted to go ahead and buy them, you can go to TheCaliEffect.com, as well as this mat is a Thelema mat. We'll have more details about where you can get these coming very soon. But in this particular situation, I'm going to use Kashtira Unicorn and Scareclaw Reichart. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by special summoning my Kashtira Unicorn, then normal summoning my Scareclaw Reichart, using its effect to be able to get Scareclaw Arrival. From there, I'll activate the effect of Unicorn to be able to get Kashtira Birth, and then I'll link off my Scareclaw Lightheart into my Reichart into my Scareclaw Lightheart and activate its ability to be able to get Primitive Planet Rakephobia. Go ahead and use the effect of your Primitive Planet Rakephobia to be able to add Vis's Starfrost from your deck to your hand, and then use Vis's effect to destroy the Lightheart to summon itself. Activate the effect of Lightheart to be able to summon itself to the side of the field, and then use Scareclaw Arrival to summon your Reichart back. From here, you're going to use both Reichart and Starfrost for a Synchro Summon into Brittle on the floor, and from here, you'll use Lightheart and your Kashtira Unicorn into an SP Little Knight. Finally, you can use the effect of your Kashtira Birth to special summon Unicorn, and this may not seem like much, but it's actually incredible. With just 2 cards, and saying that every single other card in this deck either makes this combo stronger or is a disruptive card, you have SP Little Knight to be able to banish one of your opponent's cards, Kashtira Unicorn to look through their extra deck and get rid of a card. Really important today's Yu-Gi-Oh! Kashtira Birth checks your opponent's graveyard reliant decks when they activate a spell card, and put on the floor is a free negate. But the best part about this is that even if your opponent destroys your board, let's get rid of these too. Any one of these cards brings you right back into the game. If you don't believe me, I'm going to show you how. We'll start off by normal summoning Vis's Samsara and use it to a link into Scareclaw Lightheart to be able to add a Primitive Planet Rakephobia from the deck to the hand. From there, we can activate that Primitive Planet to be able to search a Scareclaw Reichart, and then we can summon Reichart to our side of the field using its effect to be able to add a Scareclaw Arrival. There's multiple lines that can be done here, but the safest would be able to use the Scareclaw Arrival, summoning out your Vis's Samsara, and then Synchro Summon. You can make a Borreload Savage Dragon to be able to equip your SP Little Knight in the graveyard, but you can also summon your Chaos Archfiend. From here, you can banish the Vis's Samsara and a Scareclaw Reichart, and that allows you to summon Vicious Astrolaut number 2. Keep in mind, guys, if you started off going second with just Vis's Samsara, this will be the board that you can make. Vicious Astrolaut allows you to be able to destroy your opponent's monster and gain attack, but since I still have a 15/21 and another Vicious Starfrost monster, I can banish both to summon Vicious Astrolaut number 2. In this particular situation, with just 1 card, even with an entirely broken board, you can come back and potentially, unless your opponent has, I don't know, over 10,000 life points, go for game. And this is exactly why I got first place with this deck. It's so powerful, incredibly explosive, and has the potential to come back at any given time. And that's all that I have for today's deck profile. Again, guys, if you want to see some test hands, be sure to check out my Patreon as a special thank you to help me pay my editors. But until then, you can go ahead and check out these amazing videos so I can catch you on the next one.